This past week, there were 5 new schools that submitted and were accepted to join the AAU, which obviously is a research. It's a group, a conglomerate of colleges that that benefit from one another financially in research. Now, the reason why this is a big deal is it's been this way in the Big Ten for years. In order to be accepted as a new Big Ten school, they wanted you to be an AAU school. And Nebraska was they're the only team in the Big Ten that's not currently, but they were when they joined. They lost AAU status, which is incredibly embarrassing, I might add, as a school. But you have to have certain standards academically and in the field of research to better society to get that extra funding to be an AAU school. And then they partner with one another and share research with one another to better everybody's lives. It's actually a really cool thing. Well, 5 new schools, 3 of them are Big Ten power schools. Not Big Ten, but big time power schools.
Yes.
2 of them are very interesting. The third one, we'll see. But Notre Dame and the U, Miami, both became AAU schools. Chris, your thoughts on this?
Well, I've heard the argument that it's not a big deal as far as Notre Dame goes because Notre Dame's had an open invitation to join the Big Ten for several years now. I think there's more to it than that. I really do. I feel like, and we've heard rumors about Miami. I don't think we thought there was anything to the rumors. This kind of piques my curiosity a little bit. I really feel like we've talked about the ACC falling apart, and I really feel like these teams could be poising themselves to at least begin discussions with the Big Ten. I feel like I think it's inevitable for Notre Dame to become a member of the Big Ten. I give it less than 5 years. I think it's something that's been becoming inevitable that they were going to have to join a conference, and with the direction the ACC is going, I think that the Big Ten is the logical conference for them to join. I don't see them joining up with the Hillbilly Athletic Conference down south. Um, so yeah, I think that this is some posturing, some getting in the position to make your run, make your case for being accepted to the Big Ten. And I think it's a huge thing with Miami. I you know Miami and Notre Dame, they've got some history. USC and Notre Dame, they've got some history. Um, I think that this is definitely a play to get their ducks in a row to become members of the Big Ten Conference.
So, well, when you say ducks in a row, I can't go without putting this comment since she brought it up. Donald Hoffer says, "I mean, if it looks like a duck, quacks like a duck, and moves like a duck, then it's probably a duck. These teams are setting the conditions to get into the Big Ten. By the way, the Ducks, they're already an AAU school, Oregon.
Yep.
So, so is Washington, by the way. And now another Pac 12 school in Arizona State. So the Satanists
Yes.
are also looking to join an AAU as well. Doesn't mean they're coming in the Big Ten, but what market is Arizona State in? That would be Phoenix
Yes.
market. The Big Ten, when it comes to television, wants big markets. Why? It means more money,
And I'll
more
tell you,
eyeballs.
I don't know. I have talked to so many people from Arizona who are Ohio State fans. We get them in the store all the time. At least once a month, we will get a group of people in from Arizona. We had 6 people in from Arizona yesterday. It is a huge Ohio State market. I didn't realize how much until I started working out here at the store and saw all these people from Arizona coming in all the time. Uh, it would be a logical move to get that Phoenix market. And we usually like going out there and playing in Phoenix. It's we've had some good history out there. So
Mm-hmm.
or out in Tempe to be more specific, but
Which is Phoenix. I mean,
it's Phoenix.
they're like
Yeah.
that. So
So yeah, that would not surprise me. It wouldn't surprise me at all. Um, we've talked about it in the past, Eric. The two super conferences are coming,
yep.
and I think these teams are just getting themselves getting, like I said, their ducks in a row.
Mm-hmm.
I would predict within the next few years we're going to see a 20-team Big Ten.
Yep. Larry Daniels says, how much more room in the Big Ten boat before throwing some little fish out? They're not going to. The
No,
only the only school that might get a see you later, and it might be on their own accord, would be
Nebraska.
Nebraska, simply
Yeah,
because they're no longer an AAU school. And I think that fan base is kind of like seeing the Big 12 and seeing what the old Big 12 kind of coming back together, minus Oklahoma and Texas. And I feel like they're kind of missing home a little bit.
and let's face it, Lincoln isn't the TV market we're after either.
No,
You know,
it's not.
I've heard people say, "Well, what about Rutgers? What about Maryland?" Well, you know what? You're not going to throw out the DC TV market. Rutgers is in Jersey, right outside. You know, it's a
New York.
stone's throw from New York. You're not going to get rid of them. No, I mean it's like you said. Nebraska may pull out of the Big Ten. I don't see us throwing them out.
Right.
Um, yeah, I mean it. We are going to be a 20-team conference. I think we'll have everybody intact. Like you said, maybe Nebraska leaves, which might leave room for somebody else to slide in.
Yep. Paul Buck, I get the feeling that college football is forming into a mini NFL. Yeah,
Absolutely.
there's gonna be two power conferences, just like the AFC and NFC. It's
Yeah.
what it's gonna, and there might be a thirdish one in the Big 12 after the Pac-12 and ACC disband, and that's what's gonna happen eventually. It might take a decade to get there, given the ACC contracts, but that's what we're moving towards in the next decade or so. Donald Hoffer, what about Colorado? I would love to see the Buffs in the Big Ten. I think they have one of the coolest mascots, and they definitely have one of the coolest coaches now.
Oh yeah.
But that's not going to happen. Boulder is not a big TV market. They're not a big college as far as history is concerned. I mean, they had a good team with what was that? Rashawn Salam
Cordell
and
Stewart,
Cordell
Rashawn
Stewart.
Salam,
Yeah, ask the team up
Michael.
north about them.
Wow, what was the receiver? I can't think of his name. Michael
Yeah.
something or other.
In the 90s, they
Played
had
for the
a
Redskins. Yeah,
yeah, they
the
had a
Hail
good run
Mary.
they had a good run in the 90s, but and again, I think they're going back to the Big 12, which is why I think Nebraska kind of gets that homey feeling because they had a nice little rivalry with Colorado back in the day in the 90s. I think they will go back to a Big 12 with Nebraska. Yeah, there you go.
Yeah,
So you just answered your question for yourself there, just like we're on the same wavelength, Donald. So here's what's going on in conclusion, guys. So I don't believe that Notre Dame and Miami are begging at the feet of the Big Ten like two other schools currently are.
yeah.
And I have heard from multiple sources that Washington and Oregon are just saying, please, 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 let us in. Eventually, they're going to have to put more West Coast schools into the Big Ten because of traveling
Yeah.
issues that UCLA and USC have. It's not an issue to go out west one game a year if you're from the Midwest or even from the East Coast. But for them to come from the West Coast to the Midwest or to the East Coast 4 or 5 times a year is an issue for USC and UCLA. The travel costs alone involved in that, outside of football, I'm talking all your other sports, is astronomical.
Well, and
It
USC would do it at least 5 times because they're going to have their four Big Ten away games and that Notre Dame game at least once every other year. They're not giving that up.
so there's a I think that there was kind of a wink wink nod nod Kevin Warren agreement without ink to paper, which is something he does apparently, that we're going to bring more West Coast schools in for you guys, but this would be the first hat that would need to be dropped. And USC and UCLA were willing to drop that hat. Now, the rumor I'm hearing is that when Oregon and Washington come in, they don't get as big of a pie as the other schools. But they're willing to still take the deal because it'll be double what they were going to get in the Pac-12 or Big 12. And
Right.
by the way, those two schools haven't got an invitation to the Big 12.
Yeah.
Now Arizona State has. Arizona State, they've both been invited to the Big 12.
Mhm.
Colorado. Um, I think Arizona's a shoe-in. I think Colorado's a shoe-in. Arizona State is interesting to me. I think Arizona State will be like, who wants us? Big 12? Big 10?
Who's going to give us the most money?
Who's going to give us the most money? And that's another West Coast school that now you can put in that pie. And you've heard people talk, they've talked about when we go to 20 teams, there being 4 quads of 5 teams.
Yes.
That would be 5 West Coast teams in
Yep.
one quad. That takes care of the scheduling problem.
It does.
Now, is that 5th team going to be Arizona State or Stanford? That depends on the team from Indiana.
Yep.
If Notre Dame comes, you watch, they'll take Stanford,
Stanford.
who's already an AAU school. If Notre Dame doesn't come along, don't be surprised if they pick up Arizona State as that 5th West Coast team. That also means they've got room then, if Notre Dame doesn't come along, to go down to Miami now and invite the Hurricanes onto the Big Ten. And Miami is another huge television market.
Huge.
So this is all dominoes that you're seeing fall over. Now, my Notre Dame people, John Kennedy and them, their theory behind this is that Notre Dame felt the need to do this because of 2 reasons. Number one, they are a research school first and foremost, and they should have been in the
They are.
AAU already. It's a great school academically. It
Yeah.
is. Number two, if the ACC falls apart and they have to join a conference because they just realize that financially staying independent does not offer them the same abilities as your other Big Ten and SEC schools, and they feel like in order to keep up, they're going to have to join a conference, then they want to be ready with everything in place to go to the Big Ten. They don't want to, they want to stay independent, but at the end of the day, it all comes down to this. Do they have enough money to stay relevant to compete with the Ohio States, the Penn States, the team up north, the USCs, the SEC schools? If they don't, they're going to have to let go of that independence. And they
Yeah.
love their independence. They love their independence. Frank says he's going with Miami, Notre Dame, UNC. UNC is interesting to me. Um, they just don't offer a historical football power. Now they bring the heat in basketball, but this is
Eh,
all about football for the Big Ten.
but you know what? They have been a little more relevant the last few years. Not
Yeah,
great,
but
not great, but they've at least been relevant.
I think UNC makes a lot of sense, but so does Virginia. You know,
Yeah.
I just feel like the next it all depends at the end of the day, I think, about who brings in the most money. Because if you could say, hey, if we can get Miami to join
Oh, you take
and
that. Yeah.
that money goes even up even more, television rights, then all the schools get more money, you've got to take it, right? I mean,
Oh, yeah.
plus, I mean, who doesn't want to see Catholics versus convicts every year? Like I said, man.
Right.
Plus, how about Miami USC? That'd be a
Yeah.
great game, man. I mean, there's
Yeah.
just so many great games that can be made out of this. And as a fan, I'm a traditionalist, Chris. You're a traditionalist. But when it comes to seeing great football, I'm all for it, man.
Yeah.
I'm all for it. He says David Gilmore says UNC makes sense academically. They are part of the Golden Triangle. What is the Golden Triangle? Do you know what that is, Chris? David, tell me what the Golden Triangle is here. I'm unfamiliar. Um, I know they're part of the Bible Belt, but I've never heard of Golden Triangle. That interests me. I've never heard that before. Yeah, UNC is a good school academically, unless you
Yes.
play basketball, and then you don't have to go to class.
Well, they
Was
they
that a dig at the
they
Tar Heels a
they
little bit?
they ain't here to play school.
That that's true. That's true. They're here to win national championships on the hardwood, right?
That's right.
The Golden Triangle is UNC, NC State, and Duke. He says, okay, Tobacco Road. There you go.
Yeah,
There you go. Yeah. Yeah. That's some good basketball right there. That's what that is. Yeah. I really struggle with the idea of UNC and Duke no longer being in the same conference.
boy, but you know what? I bet you could still sell UNC Indiana basketball tickets all day long,
Oh,
based on history.
yeah. Of course. Of course. Yeah. Yeah, it's just interesting to talk about as these dominoes fall. But that news coming down, and it was so quiet too. It was kind of like,
Yeah,
"Well, we're AAU school now." It's like, uh, okay, I see what you're doing there. I see
yeah,
what you're doing there. Let's see. Frank says Carolina's big TV market. Charlotte, they are. That's true. Charlotte,
yep,
Charlotte. Only thinking behind that one. I can get behind it. I mean, if it comes down to UNC versus Arizona State, I'm going to say UNC or Stanford.
yeah,
Um, I would probably even pick UNC over Washington, to be honest with you. Although I've heard Seattle's just gorgeous. The state of Washington's beautiful. So that would be a cool trip to take one day. But Oregon definitely, I think, is the next. And here's the other thing I heard this week, and this will be how I close. Chris, we'll let you chime in one more last time. We've gone into double overtime now. Um, the next thing, the shoe to fall, will be the Big 12 not, or excuse me, the Pac 12 not having a case in court for the remaining schools, and you will see some of them flip to the Big 12, make announcements that they're going to the Big 12. And when they do, you will then hear that Oregon and Washington have been accepted by the Big 10 as future members with partial payments. They will not be paid the same as the other Big 10 schools throughout the remainder of the contract. They will accept partial payment, but it will still be more than anything the Big 12 was offering those schools.
yeah. And I
So
can see
that's
that.
that's the next shoe to fall, whether that's this off season or sometime in the future here within the next year or so. But that's the rumor we're hearing is the Big 12 is going to gobble up a couple Pac-12 schools. Oregon and Washington will be next, and that'll be given as a present to thanking USC and UCLA. So that's the rumor we're hearing.